Hello, everybody. This is half a test to see whether we're working, but I will also invite Rebecca once she's joined us in just a minute. Hello, I'm Arzu. I am a co-founding member of Compulsive, and we are here today talking to Rebecca Glover, another member of Compulsive as well, who is presenting her work this week on our Pulse channel. I see it. I see her. I'm going to wave to her and then I'm going to invite her in. Let's see. Look. So the invitation has been sent. So Rebecca, if you can join us.
Oh, wait.
I see your couch.
Well, I know it's posting the wrong way.
Ah.
Hold on, here I am. See.
Now I see you. Hi.
Hey.
How are you doing, first of all? Welcome.
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Nice
I'm
to see
good.
your face.
Yes, likewise. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm actually at home with COVID, but in the last
Oh,
days and well, feeling much better now, so it's all good.
oh, good.
So I was just making the introduction. Maybe I'll just wrap that one up. So Rebecca Glover, everybody, presenting her work. I'm going to read it because it's a longer title. To the Edge of What I Wasn't, I Was. A piece that's about 11 to 12 minutes long, which is an ambisonics piece in a headphone version on our Pulse channel. It can be viewed until tomorrow evening. So everybody who hasn't had the chance yet, go grab your headphones and open YouTube Pulse channel and have a listen. So yeah, thanks for joining us to this artist talk. I know you have a lot going on and it's always a bit difficult to find time, but super happy that we made it work today. So the pieces, voice recordings that are placed within the space, a bit like a canon kind of structure, I would
Hmm.
say, or I had a lot of this idea of like a wavy kind of feeling how the sounds were coming in and coming and going. Yeah, it had like this really interesting spatialness. As a quick impression, we had a previous talk about what you were going through as like a origin or like as a evolving
Hmm.
kind of momentum. Can you tell us a little bit about that? We're jumping right into it.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, the piece is made from a recording I made of my daughter when she was like a few weeks old, maybe not even
Mm.
weeks. So she used to, in her sleep, she used to like hum and peep and like it's actually mostly just one recording. So it was from
Yeah.
just one. It's a pretty low quality recording because it's not like I had my
Mm-hmm.
any good gear around me. It was literally just made with my phone because that was to hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the actual sounds. But I guess the idea started off from pregnancy where I was learning a lot about um, pregnancy and also just found the whole experience quite fascinating. So I was quite
Yeah.
curious to find out more. But quite early on, learned that when the placenta forms, and that's in the early stages,
Mm-hmm.
the cells, oh my God, the placenta cells like bypass your immune system in a similar way to cancer.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of infiltration of the other
Mm-hmm.
into your body because
Yeah.
the placenta is made up of both the sperm and the egg.
Mm-hmm.
So it really and so in a way that sounds like quite like a horror sort of thing, but actually I found it just all so fascinating. So
Yeah.
like just this feeling that my body was no longer really my own. It was like this takeover of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole experience, I suppose, of being in a body that was like a shared space as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
just my body is me.
Yeah.
Um,
Or mine,
uh,
like as a
Mine, yeah, yeah, was really different.
yeah.
And then once she was born, it was almost like that feeling extended to suddenly being an external feeling as well. So
Mm-hmm.
like I was more aware of I don't know, like yeah, I was breastfeeding, so there was that kind of like the boundary between us was this really blurred, like tangled sort of existence. And then as she got bigger and started moving, that like her voice that at the beginning was like this very delicate call and response. So I would make a sound and she would often mimic me back.
Yeah, yeah.
But then once she got older, it was like as she moved through the flat, she would be constantly calling out for that same thing. But it was like her voice was sort of mapping the network, the network that was stretching between us, or our entangled sort of shared body that was. So that's the inspiration for the piece. So like it was really trying to create this sense of this sort of tangledness, quite a fragile thing because it's not physical in a way, but also I was also reading this book that was a huge inspiration for the piece as well, which is the Entangled Life book by Merlin Sheldrake. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, shout out to that book. I'm reading it at the moment, and I had a lot of what you were saying were like, yeah, it's everybody
Except in mirror.
watching, read it. And actually, I just wanted to show this one picture. 1 second. Because, so, okay, responses. So you were saying because it's not connected to a body, but of course you were connected through a body. And there's like this one chapter I was reading about the mycorrhizal. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's basically, when the fungus is part of the root of the, I think it's the algae in this case. And well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm showing this because it has like this kind of way of being part of each other, building through symbiosis, this kind of new creature who can then, live on. And in a way, the piece is that, isn't it? It's sort of like a space, but it's also you're in the middle of a living, or I don't know, like my sensation when I was listening to it was that I couldn't really tell how the space is really supposed to be. Like I couldn't imagine any architecture in a way, but there's always like a reverb on the voice, so it's always like there is a bouncing back, there is like some kind of bigger structure, but where is it? And it's also sometimes a bit like trickly, or in some ways kind of thick. So I guess that space is a little bit like this new organism in some ways, or you feel a bit like that, I find in the piece as well. So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense in terms of also how we are experiencing that. Like it's very soft and subtle as well. Like it has this like super, very almost fragile yet very I don't know, very decided or decisive component to it. So I really enjoyed that a lot, and I personally thought it was also reflected in the very beautiful artwork we choose to have as a cover. I mean, we have a lot of artists who are doing a moving image. You decided to go for a still image. Can you say more about that?
So that's a piece that, so I should probably say that the piece was originally made for an installation.
The
exhibition. It was part of an exhibition. And for that exhibition, there was like sculptures, there were 5 different little watercolor paintings sort of things, and then this sound piece as well. And so that this new painting I made it the other day, and that was really thinking about just the piece on it, this sound piece, I guess, but also so that you got that sort of network, but these like, oh God, I'm going to get myself in a tangle just trying to talk about all of this, but like in terms of the painting, like the worms, they're like these little worms.
They are
hooked onto the nodes of like where the kind of branches of this kind of rooty sort of thing link. And I was thinking about worms because I have some worms on my balcony, and I sort of built this wormery when I was pregnant, and sort of got really interested in earthworms and learning all about them. But in doing that, I was learning about like how they listen, or how their bodies respond to sound and vibration, because they're
probably
pretty
more
much
vibration.
pure fluid. So like fluid absorbs vibration really, really well.
Yeah.
And so thinking about like these worms as listeners and
Mhm.
kind of like ears or something. So like this, like throughout my pregnancy, I was really aware of sound being passed through fluid because that's how Ada, my daughter, was listening inside me. You know, it's all in liquid.
Mhm.
So I was thinking a lot about this sort of fluid and touch based listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that's I mean, I didn't really yeah. I often make these paintings not really thinking it through. I
Mhm.
have a starting point and then something comes up and so this kind
Yeah.
of weird wormy
Yeah.
ear
I thought of,
thing.
yeah, I kind of thought of tracts, like a bit like an intestine, but then just also like any kind of like pipey tract that has an
Yeah.
expansion capacity, basically that can go like like through this movement. Basically, like worms also move, right? It's like
Yeah.
I would like in a
They
way,
sort of pulse, don't they? They're sort
yeah,
of
they do.
like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and but there is like a transmission in a way, like the step by step, or like this like a domino chain reaction
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah.
which puts it further, which I guess could also be applied to this like idea of communication. You're talking about a call and response where you're also like what you emit is not necessarily what you were thinking of, then it travels away, and then
Mm,
it depends a lot on how the other, the receiving end
yeah.
sees it and evaluates it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so this like entire movement, and so many stages that happen in between, I think that
Mm,
also explains a lot about the, yeah, just like this spatiality of it, because yeah, it has a journey in a way, and you receive just the one end of it.
yeah.
um
The one thing I like, I guess, talking about the piece, like it was quite an inspiration for the whole exhibition. Was like thinking about listening as like as many. So like, what does that mean if you're no longer just hearing from your own? It's not a viewpoint, is it? What is it? It's your ears.
I guess a position.
Ear point?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
your position.
an ear
Just like
point.
linking it to the
Yeah.
ear point. But yeah, so when you're like listening, what does it mean to listen as many? So
Hmm.
you're in the same space and you're experiencing something together, but
Hmm.
yeah, all this information is kind of coming into these different um ears or points or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that a lot,
Yeah.
and I was also thinking about mushrooms a lot, because like the fruiting body, the mushroom is just the fruiting body, and there's this entangled network that like goes through so many other
Hmm.
being like bodies
Hmm.
and bits of matter and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a big thing. So like
Hmm.
with the piece, I was really trying to, whilst it's a headphone piece,
Hmm.
in the installation, there's no fixed viewpoint,
Yeah.
so the kind of sounds are sort of quite randomly scattered,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, there's no fixed point of what you're kind of tuning into, and they happen at the same time and like ever so slightly differently, and so there's this like kind of jitteriness across the space as well,
Hmm.
but there's some kind of connection
Yeah.
linking it
In the
together.
exhibition, you mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And in
There
in
was
the exhibition
an,
there was the pardon?
in the exhibition, it wasn't a headphone piece. It was an open
Yeah,
installation.
it wasn't a headphone piece. So there were just eight speakers.
Yeah.
Um, and there was the visual element of the speakers as well. So the cables were all visible and the speakers
Hmm.
were sort of suspended at different heights through the space,
And
all
also
linked
open, as
in
far as I
through.
remember. No, they were open.
Yeah, 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 just hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the cone.
Hmm.
And then the cables were like laid quite sort of intentionally in this kind of meandering network on the floor. So that also emphasized that feeling of it all being part of a bigger body
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, the headphone piece is different,
Yeah.
because,
And
yeah,
why
it's
did you,
not.
I mean, except for that it's a fitting format for a YouTube piece, let's say, or for a piece that is going to be displayed on YouTube, apart from that, why did you choose to go for headphones?
Um, Well, I think it started off that the exhibition was in Spain, and so a lot of people didn't get to experience it.
Mm.
So, and I also didn't manage to make a recording in the space at the time.
Yeah.
But even a recording, I'm not sure would have done what I would want it to do as a sort of document. So, like, I wanted to make a piece that had a similar sort of feeling that people could listen to somewhere, like anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and why headphones? Because I started to look at ambisonics as a technique of how to like remix the sound, the original sound piece,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just uh, it spatializes the sound, so you can be quite specific about where you want that sound source to be coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of opens up that opportunity rather than it being just stereo. Because I want you inside this, I want you to be inside it
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah.
rather than, I suppose, if you listen over speakers, if you've just got two speakers or whatever,
Yeah.
that spatial sense is a lot flatter than
Yeah.
being around you somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Ambisonics has really a lot of potential for this kind of
Mm,
almost illusionary kind of feeling that it's basically an illusion of positioning, but it can really make
mm,
you feel like going from like coming from the back or from the top, and
yeah, yeah.
So that actually leads me to my next question about how your technical approach was. So you already said to record the sounds, you basically just use your phone, and
Hmm.
then you.
Did I? No, there's a couple of sounds that aren't. So there's a point in the piece where I recorded myself humming.
Mhm.
Um, and that was partly just felt like I needed something in there and I needed something more sustained.
Mhm.
But also with Ada when she was really little, I would often to calm her down sometimes just humming right in her head, like right into the her skull would
Mm.
help her just chill.
Another
And
thing,
so there was this
vibration
like
as well. Yeah.
another vibration and
Yeah.
maybe it's to do with like obviously she's hearing my voice and the vibration of my voice in when she was in my belly. So then there was maybe something connected to that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was important to have. Like it sort of felt like it linked into the whole thing,
Yes.
and that was recorded with a proper mic, um, just because I could. When by the time I was actually making the piece, I was able to do a bit more than what
Yeah.
I did when she was, yeah, just a newborn.
Yeah. Okay, so the nerd question here is what's the which proper mic?
What is it called? It's a Octave hypercardioid mic
Mhm.
that I've got that I use for Foley.
Yeah.
It's quite good for recording Foley. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just had that.
Cool.
And then the rest was just my phone it's a Samsung phone and it's the
Mhm.
app that you can just make little voice memos with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pretty basic.
Sometimes it's enough. Like,
Yeah, I
think.
mean, it had to be enough. I think with this whole piece, there was when like I was making the original one, it was really like, well, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
have I got and what can I do? I can't do anything complicated. I can't
Yeah.
like, um, yeah, I'm very, very limited with energy, with resources. It's all got
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
to hand. So
But
yeah.
sometimes these are I mean, I mean, we've had a lot of talks about that, but also generally, I think everybody who's working with sound also knows that sometimes having limited tools forces you to
Mm,
listen more, and and you just grab this. You're just quite like spontaneous, instantaneous, and well, intuitive about what you're capturing.
yeah,
I mean, gear still rocks, obviously, but
yeah.
sometimes it makes you feel more closer to what you're actually listening to, I think.
Mm,
Yeah, on that note, actually, I know that the piece that we're presenting next week is only recorded with iPhone in this case, but only with a phone,
mm.
like all the sounds and the visuals actually, but more about that next week. So, well, I don't know, like actually, I don't even want to like move away too fast from this project. I want to invite everybody who is now watching us or maybe just eavesdropping to ping some questions into the chat if you want to. You're always welcome to ask anything you want about Rebecca herself or about the piece. or if you just want to know how the weather is here, I can already tell you it was sunny. And other than
And
that,
you're in
I'll just
Brussels, right?
I'm in Brussels, yeah. But I think our sunny
Yeah.
days are a little bit over now. About other projects that you have going on, can you tell us more about what else you're tinkering about?
Well, right now I'm sitting in front of a really big open space.
Hmm.
So I've just quit my job. I was working full time after coming back from maternity leave.
Hmm.
So yeah, I haven't actually had any headspace after making the work from the exhibition and then going back to work. I really feel like I haven't had space to think creatively.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like I'm just emerging from that,
Hmm.
I suppose. But also, I mean, my day job has been working in Foley, so that all ties in anyway. So I've
Hmm.
been doing some really nice projects
Yeah.
at my old job, working on sort of some quite exciting TV programs that are due to be released soon.
Hmm.
And then I guess I've got some nice freelance projects coming up as well. And in terms of Foley,
Yeah.
so there
Any
hopefully there might be a
insight?
big. I can't necessarily say because it's not completely confirmed, but yeah, all a little bit secretive, annoyingly. But like one of the nicest Foley projects that I just finished working on before I left was a thing called Essex Serpent, which is I was editing the Foley for that.
Hmm.
Um, and did a bit of the recording as well, but for it's an Apple TV project with Claire Danes.
Hmm.
But Foley wise, it was a bit of a dream, like really beautiful. It's a period piece, and
Hmm.
so yeah, we really had space to make some really beautiful work.
Yeah. The
So
big
yeah, that's something.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but creatively, I mean, I'm just starting to do some ceramics again, and I'm just very gently
Hmm.
easing myself into that. But hopefully, the move to freelancing is also a move to have more space to be creative and just start
Hmm.
like kindling the fires again, you know?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of entangling, anyway, so I haven't mentioned that in the beginning, but Rebecca, you're actually also a sculptor by like you've learned that you studied at ECA in Edinburgh, and
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, working with Foley is a very
Mm,
haptic, or just like a very touch-based and almost sculptural way of working with sound because you're basically
mm,
carving it out of all kinds of combinations of materials and objects and surfaces and like this is basically what Foley is.
mm,
So um how do you see all of these backgrounds coming together? I mean, like for
mm,
everybody who doesn't really know about it, maybe like in this, because I think the keyword here is
mm.
entanglement. It is the keyword for your piece, is the keyword
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
your life at the moment. It's also about juggling,
Definitely.
being
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
artist, surviving, and you're based in London, like surviving in London,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
being a mom as well as
Yeah.
like a woman, an individual being, like a human in general. So like, how do you see all of those things kind of entangling?
Whoa, big question. They just do.
Hmm.
Maybe it's the easy answer. I
Yeah.
don't know. In terms of like my artistic practice and I guess my day job, mm, I really, I think I've always been drawn to like, oh, it's a really tricky one. Like, say with Foley, I think it's the making of it, the like thinking with objects and moving them in a way or like responding to like whatever I'm touching and working with that.
Hmm.
And I think for me, sound has always been like that. It's been like this very tactile thing, like from how I often record or how I interact, um, listening to an object and then trying to find a way to communicate what I'm interested in
Hmm.
about that listening or something. So it's very process driven and it's very touch based.
Hmm.
that said, this latest piece really wasn't so touch based in terms of the making of. It was just more to do with the experience, I suppose.
Mhm.
Um,
Because of the ambisonic component of it, or
because the objectlessness of it, I suppose.
right.
But then I guess the whole experience was about this very
Mm-hmm.
is a very tactile experience of being
Mm-hmm.
pregnant and
Mm-hmm.
growing a human inside you. Um, yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question at all?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, of course,
Um,
this is a really difficult thing to take apart, but I think it actually,
yeah,
like, I mean, the question of like, what do you have as projects at the moment? Like, I think even managing all of this is a project in itself. Like,
yeah. It feels. I think that's partly why I felt like after making that exhibition, like even trying to make this piece, honestly, was really hard
mhm,
because after a day's editing, I really couldn't
yeah.
listen anymore. So just even that sort of trying to find the little slithers of time where I had the clarity in my ears. Like
Hmm.
you really get ear fatigue, especially editing Foley.
Hmm.
Tiny little
Yeah, all
sound.
the small things. I
Um,
mean, it's really time.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. So I feel like there's a, uh, yeah, I feel like I'm just trying to be really gentle with myself, which is
Hmm.
maybe not how I used to be. I really changed my approach to making, I think,
Hmm.
where it's really what's possible and just listening to when I can make something and then I make something
Hmm.
when I have that space. Um, and I think I've also always been a project-based person rather than a like a consistent maker. So I'm not whilst I'm thinking about things a lot, I don't always just like
Produce, produce,
I'm
produce.
not every day in the studio, I'm not always making, 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 making,
Hmm.
making.
Yeah.
Um, so I think yeah, that there's that too. Um, I think I've just also got to trust it's all gonna happen, like it'll all just
Hmm.
um there'll be time to do things.
Of course, there always
But
is.
I think also, yeah, I think so. And I think lately, whilst it's not a project yet, I've been thinking about it as the beginning of a new like extension to this project because I
Hmm.
think uh, it all ties in. But like something that I'm really enjoying is how Ada's voice is developing and how
Hmm.
she really enjoys exploring it in relation to space.
Yeah.
So her like I mean, a lot of people do this, so it's not unique to her or anything. But
Hmm.
like whenever she sees a bridge, she's now like like testing
Yeah.
her sound, her voice in the space
Hmm.
to hear it back. And we live on the third floor in this block of flats, and our stairwell is really, really
Hmm.
resonant. And
Yeah.
whenever she goes in there, she sings her little heart out, like all the way up the stairs when she's climbing. And so I've been making all of these, again, still on my phone, but these little recordings
Hmm.
trying to capture that, but also um, trying to capture like she, uh, like throwing a voice into a cup
Yeah.
and trying to drown it and catch it
Yeah.
somehow. And so I immediately want to put my hand over the edge of the cup and then
Yeah.
pour the voice out. So
Yeah.
like I feel like there's something starting to kind of I don't know come out there. What happens out of it? I mean, who knows? But it's a little kind of seed of an idea, I suppose, that
Hmm.
I'm gonna try and
Well, I think
start
there's
with.
some animation directors who could make an amazing film out of that. So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
invitation launched. But yeah, it's true. It's also something about this like unguardedness that kids have, no? Like small kids that are just like,
Mm,
well, I'm gonna try everything. And somehow, I mean, of course, this is not like something very new that I'm saying because everybody who works in the creative field knows that this is actually a position where creativity also flows is when you're actually stop thinking too much about what
mm,
you're doing and just let it go in a way.
yeah,
And I feel like that's also there is something inspiring, obviously, in that kind of like, well, whatever, I'm just gonna try, and then you just try all of
yeah,
these things, and then you stumble upon these things that are so exciting to you as well. So
mm,
it's a refreshing thing to feed from as well, in a way, no?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I mean, I had to privileged to meet little Ada Ray, and she's definitely a fantastic human being. So
Thank
looking
you.
forward for any kind of more capturing of her. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go for the future plans in this case because it's a wide open space, unless you want to share with us
Mm.
anything that you're imagining. But you said already it's like open and you'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, there's nothing. It's not. It feels a bit weird to say that in public because everyone's always like you trying to pitch a
Yeah,
new thing, but actually, this.
have the whole list.
I think I'm quite excited about this big space, but I'm sure I'm not very good at not being busy, so
Yeah.
there will be things happening no
Mm.
matter what.
Yeah. From what I know,
Uh,
what I know about you, I'm also very, very sure that your agenda will fill
yeah,
quickly. And
yeah,
actually, I think a lot of people who can list all of these interesting projects sometimes wish for this open space because
yeah. I think it's good when you have it. It's a good thing,
it
right?
is. Yeah,
Um,
completely agree.
yeah. So
Mm,
we shall see.
yeah. So this is a last invitation for everybody who wants to still ask a question to do so. But I also see that we don't at the moment have that many visitors. Often people come back and watch it later. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like if you have anything else you want to share with us, then please do so. And if not, then maybe.
Oh, I could say a little bit about a bit more, like I never mentioned it, but it was definitely a massive inspiration was there's a piece that in that Merlin Sheldrake book he talks about this polyphonic piece by the Aka
Oh,
people
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that someone made a recording of I can't remember his name, the recordist, but it was a recording, a field recording of um some the Aka people who live in Central African Republic,
Mm-hmm.
in walking in the forests and gathering mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and they're each singing their own little melody,
Yes.
but their voices are tracing the network of the mushrooms
Mm-hmm.
because they're gathering the mushrooms.
Yeah.
But the recording is such a beautiful recording, and it really was an inspiration for the piece because it really linked to how that it felt with Ada in
Mm-hmm.
those early days where her voice was sort of mapping this kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
network between us.
Yeah.
So that really, yeah, it's worth acknowledging that, I guess, because it really was such an inspiration, but it's also just such a beautiful piece to listen to.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in
I
there you
very,
hear
very.
the
Yeah.
voices, yeah, you hear their voices
Mm-hmm.
and you hear the forest as well. So it's like the context of that space that's holding
Mm-hmm.
this like really beautiful sound moving through the space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I also listen to it. It's very mesmerizing. Also how it really does this like drawing of lines, but in this like very fractured, right? So like this there's this one
Yeah.
and there's this other one, then other, then this, then that, then this. You know, like and suddenly the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Hmm.
And I think that like how to listen. I found it a little bit with this piece, the one I made, but like where I found it quite interesting where you're repeating, especially it gets a little bit more frenetic at points, and there's a point like there's this repeated like dit, 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 dit sort
Hmm.
of sound,
Hmm.
but it's almost like that is like a spatial tracker that allows your brain to like you focus on the repeated bit and then
Yeah,
the other sounds just happen
yeah,
like around you. It's almost like your ear can't tune into everything, but it can have this like awareness of all of these different sounds happening or something
yeah,
at the same time.
yeah, like this
Um,
peripheral kind of awareness, except
yeah,
focused, targeted awareness, but like this peripheral,
yeah,
yeah, super nice.
yeah,
Um, I will put a link, I will try to look for it right now and put a link into the description to that piece as well. I think that's a nice thing to share
yeah. It's
with our
nice.
audience as well.
Cool.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing all these
Thank
beautiful
you for having
thoughts,
me.
processes, and your beautiful work as well with Compulsive. Next week on Thursday at 7 o'clock Brussels time, we have Tiago Tobias with his piece FNC 21, and it's a piece I already gave that a little bit away, but we'll hear about that in his artist talk on Sunday, not on Saturday that time. On Sunday, the time will be announced during the week. a piece that's recorded only with phone, so in the visual as well as with the sound. So stay tuned for that and chime in to our Pulse channel to listen to Rebecca's piece, To the Edge of What I Wasn't, I Was, until tomorrow evening. And take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon at some other point, and see you, all the audience, next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.